Behind the gilded gates of Buckingham Palace, a private confrontation has shattered royal calm. Prince William, future king, devoted father, has allegedly issued a final, uncompromising warning to Queen Camilla. At the center of this storm stands Princess Charlotte. What began as subtle disagreements over protocol has escalated into a battle for a young royal's destiny, one that insiders claim could permanently fracture the monarchy's inner circle. There were no aides present. No private secretaries hovering discreetly by the door, no polished courtiers ready to soften the edges of hard words. Just William and Camilla, seated across from one another in a room heavy with history and expectation. The air, according to whispers that slipped beyond palace walls, felt tight, controlled, dangerous in its stillness. For years, William had mastered restraint. He understood hierarchy. He respected tradition. He played his role with composure. But something had shifted. This was no longer the careful heir navigating delicate family politics. This was a father. And fathers, when pushed, do not negotiate in the language of protocol, they draw lines. The tension had not erupted overnight. It had been building quietly, like pressure beneath stone. Small decisions, minor adjustments, a public appearance here, a strategic photograph there. Conversations about Charlotte's schooling, debates over how soon she should be prepared for greater ceremonial visibility. To the outside world, it all looked harmless routine planning for a child born into destiny. But inside the palace, the tone was different. There were murmurs that Camilla, increasingly confident in her role as queen, had begun taking a firmer interest in shaping the monarchy's younger generation. Not out of malice, her supporters insisted, but out of belief. She had endured decades of scrutiny. She understood survival. And survival, in royal terms, meant discipline, presentation, and an unshakable commitment to duty. Yet William saw something else. He saw the faint outline of history repeating itself. He remembered cameras flashing too brightly. He remembered emotional isolation disguised as privilege. He remembered his mother's struggle to balance humanity with institution. And when discussions about Charlotte's positioning grew more assertive, when talk turned to how she might embody the monarchy's future strength, William's unease sharpened into resolve. Sources suggest that he felt decisions were being nudged beyond parental consent, that Charlotte's royal preparation was subtly accelerating, that strategic minds were beginning to view her not simply as a child, but as an asset. And that is where the silence in that private meeting became charged. William did not raise his voice. He did not need to. Those familiar with the exchange say his tone was measured, deliberate, but immovable. He made it clear that Charlotte's upbringing would be guided by her parents, that no matter the weight of tradition, no matter the expectations of legacy, certain boundaries would not be crossed. The word reportedly used to describe his message was final. In royal circles, that word is rarely spoken. It does not imply emotion. It implies consequence. Camilla, seasoned and composed, was said to have defended her perspective. The monarchy, she believes, cannot drift into softness. Preparation must begin early. Strength must be cultivated. Public image must be shaped before it is shaped by others. But William's expression, according to insiders, did not waver. Because for him, this was never about optics. It was about protection. And protection, once declared in absolute terms, changes the balance of power. Those closest to the family insist this was not an impulsive outburst. It was the culmination of months, perhaps years, of subtle friction, of philosophies clashing quietly behind polished smiles, of generational divides widening beneath ceremonial unity. What erupted in that room was simply the moment restraint expired. But to understand why William would risk destabilizing the palace hierarchy, we must go back to the subtle power shifts that began long before this explosive confrontation. For years, Queen Camilla has mastered the art of silent authority. While the public saw grace and diplomacy, insiders saw strategy. As King Charles solidified his reign, Camilla's influence reportedly extended deeper into palace operations, including the shaping of the next generation. But when her guidance began to orbit around Princess Charlotte, some say Prince William saw more than mentorship. He saw control. Camilla's journey into the heart of the monarchy was never simple. She entered royal life under a cloud of controversy, carrying public skepticism that would have crushed a weaker figure. Yet she endured. quietly, patiently. Over time, endurance became acceptance, and acceptance matured into power. Not loud power, not the kind that demands headlines. Hers was the subtle kind rooted in relationships, trust, and proximity to the king. As Charles leaned further into his reign, relying on familiar counsel, Camilla's voice reportedly carried increasing weight behind closed doors. Courtiers began to notice that her opinions on public engagements were no longer casual observations, but guiding suggestions. She understood optics. She understood the press. More importantly, she understood that the monarchy survives by carefully shaping its future faces. That future, undeniably, includes Princess Charlotte. What began as harmless interest remarks about posture, confidence, timing of appearances gradually evolved into something more structured. Discussions surfaced about Charlotte's schooling choices. Should her curriculum lean more heavily into constitutional history? Should she begin private briefings earlier than planned? Should her public presence be amplified to balance the institution's generational image? These were not dramatic declarations. They were incremental shifts. But incremental shifts in a monarchy built on precision carry enormous meaning. Those close to Camilla suggest she views preparation as protection. To her, discipline is armor. Tradition is stability. She believes that if Charlotte is to thrive within the institution, she must be molded by it, not shielded from it. The crown, in her philosophy, cannot wait for comfort. It demands readiness. But William and Catherine have built their parenting approach on something radically different. They prioritize normalcy where possible. School runs, emotional openness, gradual exposure. They want their children to understand duty, yes, but not to be consumed by it before they have even formed their own identities. To them, childhood is not a rehearsal for monarchy. It is sacred. And so the divide sharpened. What appeared outwardly as strategic planning became internally a philosophical battle. Advisors found themselves navigating two competing visions, one anchored in institutional preservation, the other rooted in personal protection. Emails were reportedly reworded. Proposals were revised. Engagement calendars were debated with unusual intensity. Charlotte's public appearances, once routine, became negotiation points. More unsettling, insiders whisper that Charlotte's symbolic value began surfacing in strategic conversations about the monarchy's brand. A poised young princess represents continuity, stability, renewal. In uncertain times, she is an image of hope. But when a child becomes a symbol, the line between guidance and orchestration can blur. William sensed that blur. He recognized how easily good intentions can harden into expectation, how quickly guidance can turn into pressure. And with each subtle extension of Camilla's advisory reach, his instinct to intervene strengthened. Because beneath the polished debates about tradition and visibility, he saw a familiar pattern forming. As Camilla's influence expanded, so did William's unease, because for him, this was never just about protocol, it was about protecting his daughter from a system he knows too well. Every decision William makes as a father carries the shadow of Princess Diana. Those who know him say one quiet vow has shaped his parenting above all else: never allow his children to endure what he did. So when reports surfaced that Charlotte's royal preparation was accelerating public scrutiny, intensifying, William didn't see tradition. He saw warning signs. He remembers what it felt like to be watched before he understood why. To have grief examined, posture analyzed, silence interpreted. His childhood unfolded under relentless observation, where even vulnerability became spectacle. The world called it privilege. He experienced it as pressure. And pressure, when applied too early, leaves marks that do not fade. It is this memory that sharpens his instincts now. Charlotte is bright, confident, naturally composed. The public adores her. Commentators already describe her as the monarchy's future jewel, a phrase meant as praise but loaded with expectation. Jewels are polished, displayed, guarded. They are admired, but rarely allowed to belong to themselves. William hears that phrase and feels a flicker of unease, because he knows how quickly admiration can become intrusion. As conversations around her visibility intensified, more appearances, more strategic moments, more subtle positioning within the royal narrative, William's protective instincts deepened into resolve. He does not reject her destiny. He understands it better than anyone. But destiny, in his view, must unfold gradually. It cannot be forced without consequence. There were murmurs that her schedule would be carefully expanded to strengthen the monarchy's generational appeal, that her natural charisma could steady public confidence, that her presence beside senior royals symbolized continuity in uncertain times. These arguments were not unreasonable. They were, in many ways, pragmatic. Yet to William, they carried a familiar echo: the institution first, the child second. Camilla, according to those close to the discussions, saw Charlotte's symbolic power as an opportunity. A poised young princess reassures a watching nation. It projects stability. It counters criticism. From that perspective, encouraging Charlotte to embrace her visibility early is not exploitation, it is preparation. It is armor built before the storm arrives. But William believes armor should not weigh down a child before she understands the battlefield. He and Catherine have tried to build a life where laughter exists outside ceremony, where mistakes are allowed without headlines, where their children can stumble privately and grow quietly. They are not naive about the world Charlotte inhabits. They simply refuse to surrender her childhood to it prematurely. And so tension simmered beneath polite exchanges. Each new proposal about Charlotte's role felt to William like a small push forward. Each suggestion about refining her public persona felt like a subtle narrowing of choice. He began to sense that if he did not draw a boundary soon, that boundary might be drawn for him. The ideological divide, tradition versus tenderness, institution versus individual, was no longer abstract. It was personal, intensely personal. Because beneath every policy discussion lay a father's fear that his daughter might one day feel what he once felt, trapped between expectation and identity, loved by millions yet isolated in her own struggle. And when philosophy becomes fear, and fear becomes conviction, restraint does not last forever. What began as differing philosophies soon escalated into a moment so direct, so uncharacteristically blunt, that palace insiders say it left Camilla stunned. Sources close to palace corridors describe the moment as icy and unforgettable. Prince William, calm but resolute, reportedly told Camilla that Charlotte's future would be decided by her parents and no one else. It wasn't shouted, it wasn't theatrical, but it was final. And in royal language, restraint often carries more power than rage. Those familiar with the exchange say the atmosphere was defined not by anger, but by precision. Every word carried weight. Every pause was deliberate. William did not storm into confrontation, he arrived with conviction already forged. This was not an emotional outburst, but a carefully measured declaration, one that had been building quietly, patiently, until silence was no longer an option. He spoke with composure, his voice steady, his intent unmistakable. There was no hesitation, no retreat. The future king, long known for his diplomacy and restraint, revealed a different dimension of authority, one rooted not in title, but in fatherhood. His message was simple, direct, and unyielding. Charlotte's path would be guided by her parents. Tradition would be respected but not imposed. Influence would be welcomed but never assumed. The word that lingered in the aftermath was final. In royal vocabulary, such language is rarely used. It does not signal hostility, it signals a boundary. It is not a threat, but a line drawn with quiet certainty. Insiders suggest that when William spoke it, the room fell into a stillness heavy with consequence. Because finality, within the monarchy, reshapes power without raising a voice. Camilla, seasoned by decades of scrutiny and survival, did not retreat easily. Those close to the palace claim she defended her perspective with composed resolve. To her, the institution must endure beyond individual sentiment. Preparation, she believes, is not intrusion but necessity. Charlotte, in her view, represents continuity, a stabilizing presence for a monarchy navigating uncertain times. Encouraging her early strength is not control, it is preservation. Yet beneath this exchange lay a deeper conflict, one not merely personal, but generational. Camilla embodies the discipline of tradition, forged in a world where duty eclipsed emotion. William represents a monarchy in evolution, shaped by empathy, transparency, and the lessons of a childhood lived under relentless scrutiny. Their disagreement was not simply about Charlotte, it was about the future of the crown itself. Observers suggest the tension reverberated quietly through palace corridors long after the conversation ended. Aides, ever attuned to shifts in tone, were reportedly seen recalibrating schedules, revisiting briefing notes, and carefully rewording communications. No public statement emerged, yet subtle adjustments hinted at an internal tremor, one that those closest to the institution could neither ignore nor openly acknowledge. And still, one question lingered with quiet urgency. Did King Charles know? As husband to Camilla and father to William, his silence carried profound significance. Some whispered that he had been aware of the growing divide but chose not to intervene. Others speculated that he was caught between loyalty and legacy, unwilling to challenge either side too directly. In the monarchy, absence of comment often speaks louder than declaration, and Charles's measured distance only deepened the intrigue. What unfolded behind those closed doors was more than a private disagreement. It was a moment of reckoning, a collision of authority, conviction, and vision. A son stepping into the power of his future. A queen defending the endurance of tradition. And at the center, a young princess whose destiny had become the axis of a silent struggle. And that question, what did the king know, opens another layer of royal tension, simmering beneath the surface. In every royal conflict, there is one silent axis of power, the monarch himself. As husband to Camilla and father to William, King Charles stands at the crossroads of loyalty and legacy. But insiders suggest that in this delicate dispute over Charlotte, Charles may be facing an impossible choice between his queen and his heir. For a lifetime, Charles has navigated the fragile terrain between personal devotion and institutional duty. He understands better than anyone that the monarchy survives not merely through ceremony, but through balance. Balance between past and future, between affection and authority, between the private heart and the public crown. Now, as tensions ripple quietly through palace corridors, that balance appears more precarious than ever. Those familiar with royal dynamics describe Charles as a careful mediator, a monarch shaped by decades of preparation and patience. Long before he ascended the throne, he had already learned the art of restraint, how to temper disagreement with diplomacy, how to soften conflict without surrendering control. Throughout the years, he has quietly bridged generational divides, guiding conversations between tradition and reform, between established protocol and evolving expectations. It is a role he knows well, and yet, this time, the stakes feel intensely personal. On one side stands Camilla, his steadfast partner, the woman who endured public scrutiny beside him and emerged not only accepted but crowned. Their bond is rooted in loyalty, forged through adversity, and strengthened by years of mutual reliance. To challenge her would not simply be a political calculation, it would be a deeply personal act. On the other side stands William, his heir, his legacy, and the embodiment of the monarchy's future. William's conviction carries not just paternal urgency, but the authority of what lies ahead. In him, Charles sees both continuity and change. It is a delicate, almost impossible position. Some palace observers speculate that Charles, ever cautious, prefers stability over confrontation. A public rift between queen and heir would risk unsettling the very institution he now leads. The monarchy, already navigating an era of intense scrutiny and evolving public expectations, cannot afford visible division. Unity is not merely symbolic, it is strategic. To appear fractured is to invite doubt, and doubt is a currency the crown cannot spend lightly. Yet whispers persist that Charles may quietly sympathize with William's protective instincts. After all, he too has witnessed the cost of royal pressure. He has lived beneath expectation, endured relentless public examination, and understood the weight of destiny long before he wore the crown. Perhaps, in William's determination to shield Charlotte, Charles sees an echo of his own struggles, an heir seeking not to defy tradition, but to humanize it. And so, he remains silent. In the monarchy, silence is rarely empty. It is measured, intentional, sometimes strategic, sometimes protective. A carefully withheld response can speak louder than any proclamation, allowing tensions to settle without forcing a public reckoning. Yet this silence, while preserving stability, leaves questions lingering in its wake. Does it signal quiet approval, a reluctant neutrality, or a calculated delay? waiting for the right moment to intervene? Within palace walls, interpretations multiply, each adding another layer to the intrigue. Advisors tread carefully. Communications are weighed with precision. Every gesture, every absence of comment is examined for meaning. Because when the monarch does not speak, the institution listens and waits. Yet beyond palace politics lies an even more fragile dimension: the emotional toll this conflict could take on the one person at its center. She is young, poised, and already watched by millions. Princess Charlotte, third in line to the throne, has grown up in a world of cameras and ceremony. But while headlines swirl about royal warnings and palace tension, one question lingers: does she know she is at the center of a battle over her own future? From her earliest appearances, Charlotte has carried herself with a natural confidence that captivates observers. There is a quiet assurance in her demeanor, a composure that seems instinctive rather than rehearsed. The public sees charm, elegance, and promise, a young royal embodying continuity in an uncertain era. Each smile is celebrated, each gesture admired, and with every appearance, her presence becomes more significant. Yet admiration, when magnified by expectation, can become a subtle weight. And even as she grows, the world watches not just who she is, but who she might one day be. Within palace discussions, her role has quietly expanded beyond that of a beloved child. Charlotte represents more than lineage. She symbolizes stability, renewal, and the monarchy's enduring relevance. In times of shifting public sentiment, a poised young princess offers reassurance. To some, shaping her image early is not pressure but preparation. She is viewed as both symbol and stabilizer, a figure capable of strengthening the crown's future through grace and visibility. But symbols are carefully constructed, and construction, however well-intentioned, can blur the line between guidance and expectation. To be a royal daughter in the modern age is to inherit a paradox. She must embody tradition while reflecting change, uphold dignity while remaining relatable, and honor duty without losing herself in its demands. History remembers royal women not only for their influence but for the scrutiny they endured. Their triumphs were celebrated, their struggles dissected, their humanity often overshadowed by their titles. Charlotte's path, though shaped by a new era, carries echoes of those who came before her, figures admired yet burdened by the relentless gaze of the world. Publicly, she radiates confidence, her presence offering a sense of continuity that resonates across generations. Privately, however, expectations gather quietly, like whispers behind closed doors. Each decision about her education, her engagements, and her visibility carries consequences that will unfold over time. She may not yet grasp the magnitude of her destiny, but the currents shaping it are already in motion. And within those currents lies the tension between protection and preparation, between childhood and crown. For William, this tension is deeply personal. He sees not only the promise in his daughter, but the vulnerability that accompanies it. He fears the emotional burden that can accompany early responsibility, the invisible pressures that accumulate long before a child understands their significance. His determination to shield her is not born of defiance, but of memory, an unspoken vow that her childhood will not be overshadowed by the expectations that once defined his own. The world, meanwhile, continues to watch with fascination. Every appearance strengthens her symbolic role, reinforcing the narrative of a monarchy anchored in youth and continuity. Yet with each step forward, the stakes rise. Charlotte stands at the intersection of legacy and identity, her future shaped by forces both protective and ambitious. Today's quiet decisions made in private corridors and guarded conversations may one day define her adulthood, influencing not only the woman she becomes, but the monarch she may one day serve alongside or beyond. And so, beneath the admiration and ceremony, a silent question endures. Will she be shaped by the institution, or will she shape it in her own image? As tensions ripple outward, the monarchy itself may be confronting a deeper question about its survival in a changing world. This isn't merely a family disagreement, it's a philosophical clash about the future of the crown. Should the next generation be shaped by centuries-old doctrine, or by modern ideals of autonomy and emotional well-being? In William's warning to Camilla, some see rebellion, others see evolution. For centuries, the monarchy has thrived on continuity, its strength rooted in ritual, discipline, and unwavering adherence to tradition. Every gesture, every title, Every expectation has been shaped by history's steady hand. To preserve the crown is to preserve the past, and for many within the institution that preservation demands certainty above all else. Yet certainty, in a rapidly changing world, can become rigidity. And rigidity, however noble in intention, risks alienating the very public whose belief sustains the throne. It is within this fragile balance that the current conflict unfolds. To traditionalists, Camilla's perspective represents the endurance of an institution that has survived wars, revolutions, and social upheaval. Preparation is not intrusion, it is duty. The monarchy, they argue, cannot be guided by sentiment alone. It must be fortified, molded, and refined to withstand the scrutiny of generations yet to come. Charlotte's symbolic presence, poised and promising, offers reassurance that the crown's legacy remains secure. To shape her early is to safeguard that continuity, but William's stance reflects a different vision, one that acknowledges tradition without surrendering to it. He represents a monarchy not untouched by history, but transformed by it. A monarchy that embraces empathy, transparency, and humanity. In defending Charlotte's right to a protected childhood, he challenges the assumption that duty must come at the expense of emotional well-being. For supporters of reform, his warning was not defiance. It was a declaration that the crown must evolve to remain relevant. Beyond palace walls, public sentiment shifts like a tide. Today's audiences demand authenticity. They seek connection, not distance, compassion, not cold ceremony. Approval ratings rise and fall with perception, and the monarchy's survival increasingly depends on its ability to appear both timeless and human. Younger royals William, Catherine, and their children have become symbols of this transformation. They embody a future in which tradition coexists with modern values, where the crown is not diminished by vulnerability but strengthened by it. At the center of this evolving narrative stands Princess Charlotte. Her significance extends far beyond lineage. She is a symbol of continuity, a bridge between eras, and a reflection of the monarchy's potential rebirth. How she is raised, how she is presented, and how she is protected will shape not only her destiny, but the institution's identity. Her future carries the weight of expectation, and within that expectation lies the question of what kind of monarchy will emerge in the decades ahead. This conflict, though deeply personal, resonates as a broader institutional reckoning. It forces the crown to confront an essential dilemma. Must tradition remain unyielding, or can it adapt without losing its essence? William's resolve suggests that royal parenting itself may be redefined, no longer dictated solely by precedent, but guided by compassion and choice. In drawing his boundary, he has done more than protect his daughter. He has illuminated a generational turning point, one that may echo through the corridors of power for years to come. And if this truly was a final warning, then the next move, who makes it, and how could alter the royal landscape forever? A final warning changes everything. It draws a boundary. It dares a response. But in the monarchy, nothing unfolds publicly without strategy. So what happens behind those palace gates now? Has Camilla stepped back, or is this merely the calm before another silent power shift? The answer may determine not just Charlotte's future, but the monarchy's next era. In the quiet aftermath of William's declaration, speculation deepens. Those familiar with palace rhythms suggest that Camilla, ever composed and calculating, may not retreat but recalibrate. Her influence has never relied on confrontation. It thrives in subtlety, in patience, in the quiet shaping of consensus. To step back publicly would signal defeat. To adjust privately would preserve authority. Within royal circles, such recalibration is not surrender, it is survival. At the same time, William's stance appears to have strengthened his position internally. The future king, once known for diplomatic restraint, has revealed a decisive edge that commands respect. His warning was not impulsive, it was purposeful, grounded in conviction and delivered with clarity. For many within the institution, this moment signaled a transition from heir to leader. Authority, after all, is not merely inherited, it is demonstrated. And in drawing a line for Charlotte, William demonstrated a power rooted in both duty and devotion. The ripple effects extend beyond the family itself. Palace staff, ever attuned to unspoken currents, are said to be navigating a delicate recalibration of priorities. Briefings are refined with greater caution. Engagement plans are reviewed with heightened sensitivity. Every detail is weighed, every decision filtered through the awareness that a boundary has been drawn. No public acknowledgement emerges, yet the atmosphere carries the quiet hum of adaptation, a reminder that within the monarchy, change often unfolds in silence. Still, beneath these adjustments lies a more fragile question. What of trust? Generational divides, once bridged by tradition and diplomacy, now face subtle strain. Can harmony endure when philosophies diverge so profoundly? Can unity remain intact when loyalty is tested by conviction? These are not questions easily resolved, and within palace walls they linger like unspoken echoes, shaping relationships in ways that may only reveal themselves over time. At the center of it all remains Princess Charlotte. Those closest to William and Catherine suggest that her upbringing may now be guarded with renewed vigilance. Her appearances, her education, her exposure to public life each will be guided with deliberate care. Not shielded from destiny, but protected from its weight. William's resolve has made one truth unmistakably clear. Childhood will not be sacrificed to expectation. Not this time. Not again. Yet royal conflicts rarely vanish. They evolve. They adapt, shifting quietly beneath ceremonial unity, waiting for new moments of tension to surface. The monarchy, forged through centuries of survival, has endured countless storms by embracing transformation without abandoning tradition. This moment, though deeply personal, reflects that enduring pattern, a silent negotiation between past and future, between authority and affection. And so the story moves forward, unresolved yet unmistakably changed. Within the House of Windsor, legacy and love continue their delicate dance. Alliances will shift. Influence will adapt. The next generation will rise beneath the weight of history and the promise of renewal. And at its heart stands a father whose resolve has reshaped the conversation about duty and protection, ensuring that the path ahead is not dictated solely by tradition, but guided by choice. Because in the House of Windsor, power is inherited, but protection is chosen. And Prince William has made it clear, when it comes to Charlotte's future, the final word belongs to her father.